Hello, guys. Just going to wait for some people to jump in here, but I think if you guys have been paying a little bit of attention, it's a bit of a big week. As you can see on the big screen there, we have introduced the Ledger Stacks. Hi, NBA. How you going? Yeah, pretty stoked about this one. Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun looking. I like working on it and stuff like that. If you guys are in Paris, we do have Ledger open as well. Even if you guys aren't here in Paris, you can tune into the live stream, which you can catch on Ledger open with a 3. And you can jump into the live stream right here. It'll be on Twitter if I remember correctly, and there's a whole bunch of panels and stuff as well. Okay, I'll just have a look at what people are typing in the chat. Hi, Diallo, how's it going? Was on that Twitter live. Yeah, it was a really fun experience to. I wasn't there in person. I was actually back at our home base where I am now, and I'm gonna be down there as well. But super excited. I'm sure you guys might have a lot of questions about the stacks in particular. I'll try to answer them as best I can and go from there. Diallo, live can take however long. Normally, I just be going through some of the onboarding process. That shouldn't take more than 15-20 minutes if we push that. It's just to get you guys set up. I have normally a couple of things that I normally go through with regards to what's happening in crypto in general, and also like how to get you guys set up. But obviously there'll be other questions with regards to stacks as well. So yeah, maybe we'll just get started. Obviously you guys might already know about stacks and everything like that. If you do want to find it, you can get it, find out more about it. You can look on ledger.com. You can look at it and compare it to the other wallets and stuff like that. But I wanted to come at this today from a very, considering that the stacks has been announced, like, okay, maybe you already are a customer of Ledger, or you just bought one and they just announced this. So first things first, if you pre-order now, either if you're a Ledger Market Pass holder, or you can do it on our website with a card and everything like that. It's going to be shipping by the end of March is our expectation. So maybe you guys want to know how to get set up, or how you want to prepare for when it comes. So actually what I did is I reset my personal device and pretend as if I'm going from the very start. So let's go. So I've already got Ledger Live open in the background here. Just downloaded it. That it's ledger.com, and you can go to apps and services and Ledger Live, and you can look at that. So let's say we just got set up. We want to make sure we're all ready for the Ledger Stacks launch, and we'll go from there. For all the questions that come up as well, I will try to get through them after I go through this really quickly. So you can write them in the chat, and then I'll be able to read through them and go from there. So let's say you've already downloaded Ledger Live. I'm going to pop in here and you just want to get started. You can see on the screen there that I've got my device here. You get it installed and you want to go to the specific device that you might have purchased. So in this case, today I have the Ledger Nano X, and I'll just select that there. And if it's the first time using my Ledger Nano X, I could select that one. But I already have a recovery phrase, right? So I can select that as well, or I can restore from a new restore. Now, what Ledger Live in this particular case will do is actually guide you through the process of getting that all set up, and it's not necessarily synchronous yet. So it just gives you a little bit of a better idea of how to restore and things like that. So If you're a newer user, this is something that I would definitely recommend, but I can actually do this all on the device today because I've got a device as if it's new and to just go from there. So why don't I do that? Let's pretend that, let's actually get my Nano set up first. I'm going to restore, and I'm going to actually go through the actual setup here. So just to reiterate, that is just from the start, get started, select your device in particular, and in our particular case, we're going to restore from new. Actually, let's set up as a new device. Why not? It gives you a insight into the experience, and you can follow along with me. Now you can see you can access your crypto with Ledger Live. You can own your keys, right? I think it's something that Pascal mentioned, our CEO mentioned, not your keys, not your coin. So it's definitely something it's something we hold really dearly as a part of our values. Is we want you guys to own your digital assets. Make sure it stays secure and safe. So I've read through these 1,000 times, but you can read through these as well. You can get all set up. It'll guide you through the process. It says 30 minutes here. Like I said, will kind of push this through and try and get this sorted so you guys see what the process is like. So I'm ready, right? So I'm turned on my Nano. I've connected it. I've already selected set up as a new device. So I can select, rather, set up as a new device on the Ledger Nano device as well itself. So you can see set up as a new device on the screen down below here. Now, I understand that I must choose my PIN code myself and keep it private. So this is something just like it's kind of like a bank PIN code, right? So let's set that up. Here, I'm going to choose one that I never used before. I think I've used this on stream before, 0000. It's not something I use personally. And I'm going to confirm that. But, you know, just for the sake of demonstration purposes, I might just have a look at what some of the questions that I see are at the moment. Boom. Okay, so I had a gift card I got a week ago with my new Ledger when I redeemed the Bitcoin and wasn't rewarded to me. Smart business. I might have you open a case with us. The link for that would be support.ledger.com. We can have a look at that for you. I'm not 100% sure what it might be in your particular scenario, but we'll definitely want to have a look at that for you. So Ken mentions, while I'm going through this, is Ledger Nano X or Stack safer? I wouldn't say one's safer than the other because they're all as safe as each other. Okay. The reason I like the Stacks is because, yeah, it's personalizable. You know, you've got a bigger screen. So people that have issues with visibility or they can't see very well or something like that, Stacks is a really good option for them. So it's something you can put your NFT on the home page. So that's really cool as well. I played around with it internally and I really loved it. So that's just something to consider there. It's not that one's safer than the other in particular. I heard just bought the X and now you bring the actual more cool and easier to use. Yeah, we didn't want to leak it or anything like that. So, but you know, I feel the same way actually. Like I've got so many Nano devices and now I've got to buy this one as well. And my stack of crypto isn't that big either. Are you trying to say that Stacks is better in terms of usage? They are all the same in terms of security. I know you guys are talking to each other, but in terms of usage, I would say it's a lot easier. The bigger screen, I think, is a big factor for a lot of people. If I could show the device here, I would. You guys are probably going to be wanting to go through the what is it called? You guys are probably going to be wanting to go through the Twitter live. If you guys want to do that, this stream might be a bit quiet since we're just getting set up with the regular devices. Teju, any risk with using a passphrase of Ledger other than losing or forgetting it? Other than losing or forgetting it, well, that would, I'm sure you're aware that would come with the risk of losing the assets that are on that device. The other risk is if you lose the recovery phrase as well, then you lose those assets too. So the recovery phrase, you need both actually, the recovery phrase and the passphrase to access your ledger as your assets on those addresses. Creative Mind Bree mentions, when will we be able to sell on Ledger Nano X other than Bitcoin? I would love options of my choice. I don't have any specifics on within Ledger Live, but I think one thing to mention would be that there are services. So I'm from Australia, if you can't tell by the accent, and there's a service there called totally unaffiliated, Living Room of Satoshi, and they deposit straight into bank accounts. You can use something like the CL card to actually spend your crypto assets. So for example, it's a CL card. Let's get this set up, and I can even show you within Ledger Live. So we can go from there. David, it's only about setting up the device. I'm not able to have my the stacks here on the stream at the moment. You could probably tune into the live stream on Twitter. So that's twitter.com / or @ledger / ledger. Sorry about that, David. I wish I had one to show you guys too, to be honest. But let's all get set up. Let's start to get set up. Like I set up my PIN code, and now I want to write down the recovery phrase. There we go. The Ledger Live is just telling me the importance of the PIN code, how to select the PIN code. But since I've already set that up, there's no need for us to go through that here, or to read through that rather. I understand if I lose my recovery phrase, I will not be able to access my crypto. No worries, David. So let's go through and write down the recovery phrase. I'm skipping through these steps in particular, but you can see here, I press both buttons to continue. Please don't use this recovery phrase, by the way. This is obviously just to show you guys how it works and things like that. But yeah, let's say, I go and write down all of these words. You can see all of these words here, and it's the backup to your assets, right? You want to make sure that you write this down, not these words, but the words that your device generates. And why is that more secure than like a potential wallet where you store the recovery phrase on your computer? If your computer, for example, gets compromised, if you're storing the recovery phrase on the computer, then the devices, the accounts that are derived from that recovery phrase that you store on your computer, they're potentially lost. If someone finds that recovery phrase, they're like, hey, I'm going to grab those assets. So since I have the recovery phrase, I can add it to even a Ledger wallet. You could add it to a third-party wallet like MetaMask, Trust Wallet, Rabby, or whatever it might be. And actually you manage the assets, most likely without your consent if your computer was compromised, right? So the reason you only ever put your recovery phrase onto your device is so that it's not anywhere stored digitally. Don't take a photo of it, don't store it on Google Drive or anything like that. It's just going to be a potential vector by which someone could take those assets. Nakamoto mentions, what's the difference between Stacks and Nano X? I do have the page up here. You can actually go through on our website, Nakamoto, and you can check that out in particular. Let me just get that up. So you can pre-order now. It's got a big e-ink screen, first curved e-ink screen. You can put all of your NFTs as backgrounds and things like that. So obviously that's not something that the Ledger Nano X has, that you can see here. As well. So you can go through and you can check that out. There's a compare button as well, if I remember correctly. And they clip together with magnets. How do they work, right? But that's all on our website, ledger.com, Nakamoto. So you can check that out if you want as well. I am stoked to get mine. I'm probably going to be rambling about the stacks for a long time. But let's go. Let's try to get set up again before I get distracted. I'm just going to write down these words. Again, don't use these words. These are going to be just for testing purposes. And if you guys have any questions as well while I write these down, then you can ask them down in the chat. Okay. Stacks option is same like Nano X. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Nakamoto. I got that. Teju, if the recovery phrase is backed up in the PC and it's compromised, but I'm using a passphrase which is not in the PC but memorized. Okay, this is it's actually an interesting question that we had floating around our internal channels. So let's say that your recovery phrase, yes, is backed up and it's compromised. Yes, the passphrase, if it's sufficiently complex, someone that compromised your recovery phrase may not be able to immediately get at those assets, right? And if you have those memorized, then you can actually get those out as on your own. So that's fine. But obviously it's not an ideal scenario, right? Where all of your normal quote unquote, or the accounts that you use without the passphrase can't be used because someone else could be watching it, ready for you to input assets for them to take out, for example. So it's not an ideal scenario, but it is something where, let's say if it's sufficiently complex that if by brute force it could take 10,000 years, as a random example, for that to be discovered just by brute force, then you might still be able to retrieve those assets with that passphrase. So it's definitely not a way that we recommend to store your assets, because obviously, having the recovery phrase without the passphrase, those accounts being compromised isn't an ideal scenario. But it is something that customers have brought up before, where they've had their recovery phrase compromised, but they had some assets with the passphrase that was still able to be retrieved because it was not just a passphrase of 0 or A or B or ABC. It was like, let's say 50 characters long, which is really extremely long. I wouldn't recommend it personally, but it is technically possible. I'm going to keep writing before I forget. And I hope that answers your question there, Teju. Nakamoto, I'm not sure. Stacks option is same like Nano X. Stacks has the screen like we mentioned before, and you can store those NFTs as a background on the e-ink screen as well, which is really cool. I am pretty stoked. If you guys have a Ledger Market Pass, you can actually jump on and go mint that. The snapshot was taken already. That was my understanding based on what the team have mentioned to me would be that it's trying to encourage holders to hold for a long period of time. So you can still order that with the card, like I mentioned, you can see behind here. You can pre-order that now. And you can order with a card if you don't have the Ledger Market Pass, or you can actually still order. You can still try and mint gadgets. So if you go to market.ledger.com, you can see there's the stacks drop exclusive to Ledger Market, and what that is in particular. So if you have 0.22 ETH. At the moment, it's for Genesis Pass holders, but below you can see if you own a pre-mint collab NFT, you can mint these after on the 13th of December. So that's Paris time as well. So you can see all of the partner or the community collabs: Moonbirds, Proof Collective, Cryptos, Orbits. Like you can see a lot of them here. There's some Brick, you've got MFers, GM Token, Cool Cats NFT, World of Women, so Top Sacks. So that's pretty cool. I think it's awesome. All right. So let's finish up here. And I'm sure you guys, if you were following along at home, I'm sure you gotten a lot ahead of me as well. But the reason I was writing them down is so that I wanted to confirm them here. And you can see here, I'm going to go and make sure everyone is the same. Again, don't use these recovery phrases. These are going to, I mean, we broadcasted these, right? So like, it's not good to, if someone's already going to have access to that. So that's not good. Don't use these at all. Let's go. Again, if you guys have any questions, pop them in the chat. Please don't answer any DMs. You know, there are always scammers out there looking to take your assets. So keep your recovery phrase safe. Don't tell it to anyone. We'll never ask that of you. We'll never want it. We don't need to, you know, sync your account by entering your recovery phrase or anything like that. Only place you want to enter your recovery phrase is going to be the Ledger device itself. You can see here what I'm doing is I'm confirming. If I was going to be resetting it, I would be if I was going to be resetting it, then, you know, I would be entering it only into the device itself. Okay, and clock. So I know it's going to be pretty quiet here. I don't know if I treat the passphrase as a password for a new set of accounts derived from the 24 words. So lower uppercase numbers and special characters. I think it's definitely not a bad way to go, Teju. As long as it's sufficiently complex and stuff like that. I don't see, as long as you memorize that, you know it. If I'm frank, and I know it's not on the DL here, but it is something that I do personally. So it's not a bad way to go, if I'm honest. So I do the same thing. Let's get this sorted. Gadget. Load. Copy. Shift. Twin and snack. Boom. Okay, it's set. Now I can set both buttons to continue and go from there. So it's going to process and get that all set up. So again, if you guys are just joining us, we're just getting the Ledger Nano device, Ledger Nano X setup, not the stacks. Unfortunately, I don't have a prototype with me at the moment, but you can all check out the live stream on twitter.com/ledger or @ledger. Here, there's a little bit of a schedule there, and you can check it out on Ledger Open as well. There's a link to the live stream here. Cool. So my device is ready. You can see here. I go back to the dashboard, right? And you can see, all right, it says to install apps. So while I've been talking and chatting and stuff like that, you can see Ledger Live is just sitting as if it's kind of gotten out of sync, right? So you can see, yep, it's telling me about the recovery phrase and things like that. So I can just go, I'm done, and get started. It's going to give me a quiz. Why don't we do that quiz? Oh, no, I canceled it. It's okay. Now, also, when you get your device set up as well, it's going to do a genuine check. And then it's just going to make sure that your device hasn't been tampered with. And you can go from there. Unfortunately, I don't speak as much French as I should, Hatch. So if you had a question, you can definitely reach out to us on support.ledger.com, or you can, if you can type in English, that'd be awesome. I can try and answer your question as well. But you can see it's asking to allow the Ledger Manager, and that's totally normal. If you reject it, it'll be fine as well. It'll just ask again. But in this case, I wanted it because I wanted to check that it was real, and thankfully it is real. All right. So you can see here, it says install app, but if I go install app on the device itself, it says something. It says use Manager in Ledger Live to install apps and more. And it just says go back to the dashboard. So how do I, if I want to interact with Ethereum, if I want to interact with Bitcoin or Tron or whatever it might be, how do I do that? You can see here, I've got a terms of use. I'm just going to hit accept for that one. So how am I going to do that? If I just follow my instincts, I just hit add account. And I think, if I remember correctly rather, it'll also advise that I need to do certain things beforehand. So let's get started. Let's say I just want to add a Bitcoin account. Boom, let's go. And as you can see here, I've got no apps installed. It says it's checking app dependencies. Like, hey, I don't have the Bitcoin app installed to be able to add a Bitcoin account. You can see it's actually going to install this automatically for us. So you can see here it's loading on the device itself, and it's going to install the app before we add the account. Now, why would it do that? The app, I kind of like to imagine it like a little book that the Ledger device itself uses to manage your to interact with the blockchain. So different blockchains might require different applications because they speak differently. Ethereum might have certain things that are different from, did I say Ethereum? Ethereum will have something different from Bitcoin, just as an example. So it's just the way that the device is going to interact with the chain while we're waiting for this to finish. First is loading, and then it has to install, and you see why that's on. Let's open the app. Perfect. Now it's ready. Awesome. Now we'll wait for my Ledger Live to load. Now, I think I wanted to go into some things about, getting ready for Ledger stacks and things like that. So let's say you have an existing device. So now we have this device already set up. Let's say you just wanted to all right, I've already minted Ledger stacks here. If you had owned the Genesis pass, or if you had pre-ordered it just through the normal method on our website at ledger.com. What's the next step? Okay, maybe you want to check that your recovery phrase is the same as it was before. You just want to make sure, you're a little paranoid. You just want to make sure your recovery phrase is written down correctly. There's a thing called the recovery check app that I'll go into after this all gets set up. That will go through and confirm the recovery phrase that you have on the device. I'm just going to cancel this one just to make it easy. I think it's just out of whack there. So Bitcoin, it's already installed now, right? So let's go into Ledger Live. We add accounts. It'll go into the device. It'll say, hey, I want to get, the address for a certain derivation path. So Bitcoin has a specific specific accounts under Bitcoin have a specific derivation path in particular, and you'll see that down below once it loads up. And then once they appear, you can select which ones you want. So there's native SegWit, which is really, really common. There's Taproot, there's SegWit, and there's Legacy. I'm just going to show them all. They're all valid. They all have different address prefixes, actually. So you can add whichever ones you want. Just double check with you if you're using an exchange, for example, to withdraw your assets, which is really common now, obviously, in the wake of FTX and other exchanges. It's just something to keep in mind which specific standards exchanges might support. Teju also mentioned, will Cardano staking be natively added to Ledger Live? My understanding, it's definitely something that's in the roadmap, but it's not something that I have like a specific time frame for. Otherwise, we'd probably be shouting that from the rooftop that it's all actually ready to go. But let's add this account there, and I'll just go through the recovery check. And then maybe if you guys have any other questions, we can go from there. So why do the recovery check again? It's just so that you guys know if you've written down the recovery phrase correctly. One thing you might think about is like, okay, I want the Ledger device to actually show me what recovery phrase is on the device. That's potentially a really big security hole, because if someone gains access to you, let's say it's only protected by the PIN code. If I was able to get the recovery phrase on on the device itself just by the PIN code, then it might be a lot less secure, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. We can't actually get the recovery phrase off the device. We would be putting the recovery phrase onto the device itself. Remember, never onto a digital place like your laptop, or never anywhere like Google Drive or anything, but just onto the device itself or on paper, right? Mr. Greg, how I feel about stacks? That's me too. I FOMO'd in pretty hard, even though I work at Ledger. Gotta get a couple devices probably. I'm going to rather get a couple devices. I'm absolutely stoked. But waiting on the My Ledger page to open up. This tab on Ledger Live is essentially where you can install apps, you can uninstall apps, you can do your Ledger Nano updates. So there's lots of things you can do with this in particular. Ooh, we might have to do a little bit of troubleshooting because it's definitely not loading for us. So let's just close and reopen it. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Ledger Stacks. If you guys are in Paris, come hang out. If you guys want to order this, and of course you're not in Paris, or you can do that either with the Premium Collab now. If you had already been holding the Ledger Market Pass, the Genesis Pass, you can mint it for 0.22 ETH. And there's actually value adds that you can get. So what do you get? You can get a free magnet shell, and you actually get the art on stacks. So it'll be something that you can, it's a mint pass that you get, and you can mint that in particular. So absolutely awesome. You can order it straight away now as well via ledger.com. I've got all these tabs open. Ledger.com. And you can go to Discover Stacks and order that there. Well, let's have a look at Ledger Live if it's going to be any better with us today, right now rather. Diego asks, what happens if Ledger goes bankrupt one day and the app stopped working? Where does my crypto go? So, really common question, and there is a Help Center article. What if Ledger goes out of business? Is the thing I type into Google, and it's actually a page that we already have. But I'll explain it as well, because your recovery phrase is the backup to your assets, and it's standard across a lots of wallets. You can put your recovery phrase into any other compatible BIP39 compatible, for example, wallet to be able to manage those assets. So that's if we ever go bankrupt, right? Now, if the apps stop working, this will definitely one thing that happens if you don't update your device. So definitely something to keep in mind. Try to keep the Ledger Nano firmware up to date, or in the future Ledger Stacks firmware. Try to keep your Ledger Live up to date as well, and try to keep all the apps up to date as well. But yeah, if we go bankrupt, you can pop it into your, let's say you have a MetaMask and I have a MetaMask up here. I can put my recovery phrase into MetaMask or to Rabby or to Trust Wallet or whatever, and try to manage those assets, get them out of there or anything like that. But otherwise, you would even use another wallet as well, another hardware wallet rather, and you could potentially do that too. It's just something to keep in mind is derivation paths, but it's all explained here. So you can, it's on the Ledger Academy, and you can search that there as well. So I hope that answers your question, Diego. Generally not an issue because the recovery phrase is the backup, and the recovery phrase is standard across the industry pretty much. So your crypto doesn't go anywhere. The access to your crypto is just dependent on that recovery phrase, and you can use that recovery phrase with the other wallets as well. What if you're using a passphrase? I think not all wallets support using a passphrase. That is true if I remember correctly. So let's check MetaMask passphrase. For example, I'm just going to use that, but I think the passphrase is something that you can, that's just secret recovery phrase. I'm just using them as a example, but there will be wallets that are not just Ledger that use the passphrase as well. I think there might be a limit to how characters you can use in some wallets. They might be lower than Ledger, but being that there are other products, I'm not 100% sure. So I'm not sure that it'd be good to quote me on that. But it's something that a lot of the other wallet providers are using as well. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And also because it's a standard in cryptocurrency, there will be, open source. I feel like Electrum, let's say, for example, if you only use Bitcoin, Electrum does support passphrases in particular. So Teju, thanks again for the repeated questions. But yeah, you should definitely be able to use other third-party wallets as well, because that's standard too. It's not a Ledger-only thing for the passphrase. Also, Alien mentions, will there be an iPad app for Ledger Live? There is no official support for iPad at the moment. I'm sure you're aware. It's not something that we have directly on the roadmap, if I remember correctly. But it is something that we do know that a lot of you guys are after, and we always try to log those details down. So thanks for letting us know. I'll obviously mention that as well, that you're looking for the iPad app as well, and we'll try to rustle up the devs in particular. But you can see here, my Ledger has finally come up, and the reason we were trying to bring this up was because we wanted to, pretending like we just pre-ordered, we wanted to double check out, pre-ordered our stacks. We wanted to order the Ledger. We wanted to make sure our recovery phrase was written down correctly. So let's do that. Let's be like, okay, I'm super paranoid. I want to check if I wrote it down. I'm going to go to the app catalog. No worries about the question stage here. I love it. Yeah, it's great. I'm assuming most people are actually off watching the Twitter live on for Ledger Open, so it's nice to have someone ask some questions. But yeah, let's recovery check. Let's install that. And I know you had another question. Would you consider safe to back up 24 words in offline PC with offline password manager, encrypted file with password, if I'm using a passphrase which is not in password manager or offline PC? It's not something I would consider safe, but it's something that is more, I think, so it's not something we'd recommend. I'll just say that straight away. But it doesn't mean that it's not, it doesn't mean that it's absolutely totally unsafe and you'll immediately get hacked, right? Obviously there's a gray area there, and if you practice good cybersecurity, it's installed. If you practice good cybersecurity, who knows? But it's not something we would recommend. In particular, I know, obviously this is something that people were doing before Ledger even became a business as well, right? And they may not have been hacked as well. So it's not something we would consider as being best operating procedure, but so I can't recommend it as a whole, but I can't see it being an issue, being that, you have if someone gains, so let's rephrase it actually. If, what are your risk, what's the risk here, right? So if someone gains physical access to the PC and they know your password, then you might be screwed, with just the recovery phrase, but we talked about that before. So what if they come up to you with the good old wrench attack, right? Then you might be in deep trouble as well. So there's a lot of things to consider. I would never recommend it. I can't see it immediately being an issue. I would say, if you prefer to do it that way, go for it. Just, what might I consider? There might be some things like Shamir's secret sharing. Shamir's secret sharing that you might be interested in. It's a bit more complex, but you can actually split up a recovery phrase in a very specific way so that maybe you do have to hold it on a digital device. You could probably do something like that. But generally speaking, simplicity is going to be better rather than, going through all these different ways. So, because like, let's say also as another example, what if the offline PC, what if that breaks? What if there's a physical issue with it? That's going to be a real big issue as well. So I think it's definitely something to consider if you're going to be doing something like that. I went off on a bit of a rant there. I hope that answered a little bit of what you're doing. But if you want to chat more or like go into way more detail, you can always come onto Discord. I'm there a lot as well to go through that. Let's just quickly go through that recovery check because I did say that I would do that. And I'll try to answer those questions as well that you guys have just popped in there. The reason you want to use the recovery check app is because you'd want to check if you wrote it down correctly. Ledger Live is going to think that the device is disconnected now because it's inside an application, which is normal. So you can check your recovery phrase. I click both buttons to continue. You can see down the bottom there. And I would select the number of words. So I know that, if you've on the stream, we set it up with a 24-word recovery phrase, and I just type my recovery phrase in as well. I'm not going to do it because it'll take a little bit of time. But once you've checked the recovery phrase, it'll say, yes, it's correct, or you might say it's incorrect. If it says it's incorrect, it's most likely that you've written it down incorrectly. You might want to check the BIP39 list. The BIP39 list is a list of words that the recovery phrases are made up of. And you can make sure that you can make sure all the words are on that list because it's important. If it's not on that list, you might have, written down the word incorrectly. Okay, but yes, that's all that. Alien also asks, have multi-sig devices been discussed? For example, required 2 or 3 Ledger devices to access wallet. So with multi-sig, it's not with Ledger in particular, it's not necessarily at the device layer that you'd be doing multi-sig. There are multi-sig options. The biggest one that comes up for me, to my mind, immediately would be Gnosis Safe. It's done at so this is on Ethereum, and you would open the application and you'd have addresses sign do a multi-sig in particular with that one. So Gnosis Safe is a potential option that you can use to do that. You can actually, there are other options as well that you can potentially use if you know of others too. But this is a way that you can manage assets with a multi-sig in particular. It's not necessarily at the device level, if that makes sense, Alien. But definitely super, super cool functionality with multi-sig. I love it. I actually haven't got it set up for me and my wife and my family yet, so definitely excited. I have to coach them through that process as well, so that's going to be a thing. Ace asks, how many wallet addresses can you protect with each ledger? Is it only one address per device? No, it's not infinite, but it's essentially as many as you'd like. I totally get how you might feel lost. So what I might go through with you if you're going to think about how the ledger works is that the ledger stores the recovery phrase, and whenever you sign a transaction, so let's say I go to Rarible and I wanted to purchase an NFT, how it works is that Rarible has a bunch of smart contracts that might take ownership of NFTs or facilitate the transfer between people, right? I'll just close MetaMask. I don't need it right now. So why am I going into NFTs, Raribles, and anything like that? The recovery phrase is the thing that you need to sign transactions, right? It's the thing that's secret to you, that only you know, that proves, that you deterministically can access certain wallets. But how do we know we can access certain wallets? I'm just going to jump out of here. How do you know you can access certain wallets? Because each, from the recovery phrase, there's generated a master key. And that master key can, based on a derivation path, I know they're big words, but based on a derivation path, it can create certain public and private key pairs. And those public-private key pairs correspond to addresses, generally speaking, on Ethereum. Same with Bitcoin as well, but there might be differences there because it's a UTXO. So you can generate pretty much an infinite number of addresses to really answer the basis of the question. But how it does it is it goes from the master key, uses a derivation path. It might be like, when you see it, it'll go m slash, let's say 60/0000, whatever. That's a derivation path. And it uses that path, those numbers, to actually correspond to specific assets. So let's actually, I think derivation path, I think there was a BIP article on that in particular. Boom, should be that one. Is it this one? Okay, you can see the derivation path here, and like you can see, so that's each one of these derivation paths correspond to different addresses. In this case, obviously, again, not a real recovery phrase, but yeah. So you use the master key, the M, use the derivation path, there's letters, those numbers there, and then that creates all of these addresses that you can use. What comes after that as well is like what networks you're using. All right, so Bitcoin is its own network. Bitcoin, you send and receive Bitcoin to each other, to Bitcoin addresses. Ethereum is a different cryptocurrency that uses a different way of communicating, for example, to manage assets and things like that. So the addresses that you get from Bitcoin will have a different derivation path than Ethereum. The next level after that is layer 2s and things like that, but I might just stick with that for now. I know I rambled on a bit, Ace, but definitely shoot us an email or jump on our Discord. It'll be something that we're always really happy to discuss. A lot of people might be happy to discuss with you here as well. Just don't give out your recovery phrase, of course, anything like that. I do know that this is, what is it called? This room has been booked soon, so I will have to go soon. So I'll just repeat, Ledger Stacks, what a week. I'm sure you guys are all probably preferring to tune in to that kind of stuff on the Twitter live as opposed to boring old me just doing the normal stuff. But yeah, Ledger Stacks, go to market.ledger.com if you have the Ledger Market Pass already, or you can order with the card on ledger.com. If you do hold one of those collab NFTs, which I'll show you in a second, then you can mint on the 13th of December, if I remember correctly as well, 6 p.m. I think it is Paris time. Here you can see pre-mint collab NFTs, and then if you don't have any of those, you can mint that on the 14th of December as well. Yeah, totally stoked. I'm so excited for this to come out. Yeah, it's going to be great. Tony Fidel, the designer of the iPod, did this. So really, really stoked. Hope you guys have been having a good week. You know, stay safe in the markets out there. Don't give out your recovery phrase. Don't give out anything don't sign any transactions that you don't understand, anything like that. Give us a shout at support.ledger.com. I'll just show you guys exactly how to do that. Down on the bottom right, there'll be a button that says help, if I remember correctly, or chat. And you can go from there. I hope I can talk to you more, Ace. If you have any more questions, Seeing as those were the last few questions. Yeah, you can see contact us on the bottom right here, and you can go from there. Yeah. Let's answer one more question. And then could you explain the minting process requirements? I don't quite understand. Yeah, 100%. Let me just go. If you want to mint it, you would, if you already own the Ledger Market Pass and the snapshot was already taken, then you can go through and mint it. What it does is you mint an NFT that gets burnt when you redeem it, right? So you go to our website, let's say in March when it starts shipping, you go to our website, you'll say, hey, I want to redeem it. It'll burn the NFT of no gas cost to you, and then you'll put in your address, you'll put in your details about where you want to get it sent out. That's if you have the Ledger Market Pass. You can mint that now for 0.22. You can also pre-order that with a card. Okay, but the next thing, if you own, where is it? I gotta go to market.ledger.com. But that's, you can mint with the Ledger Market if you had already owned the Ledger Market Pass. I know it's confusing, and we have I've tried to communicate that we should be simplifying it as much as we can. But yeah. So if you already have owned the Ledger Market Pass, you can mint that now. Let's say you own one of these pre-mint collab NFTs. So Moonbirds, Proof Collective, Cryptodes, Obits, F Crystal. Hopefully want to be a family show. F Avatar, Creature World, Pre-Mint Collector Pass, all these ones. You can also mint, but you will have to wait after all the Ledger Market Pass holders have potentially minted or here. So you can see 695 have minted already out of the 10,000. So if they, if there's any left here, let's say there's 1,000 left. So if I pre-order the stacks, I get the pass. No. If you pre-order the stacks, you'll get the stacks. If you already have a Ledger Market Pass at the time, then you can mint the redemption NFT here. Otherwise, if you have one of those NFTs I mentioned before, you can mint after the 13th of December. And then if there's still this particular, this 10,000 package left, then you'll be able to mint that out on the 14th of December for the public. I know it's a bit confusing. I can run through that with you again. If you raise a ticket with us, just mention my name. I'll actually be able to pick it up. They'll assign it straight to me. But this is an exclusive for the Ledger Market Pass holders, and there's also the Ledger stacks that you can order with the card. So if you're already a Ledger Market Pass holder, that's you can go to market.ledger.com. If you're not, then you can just go to ledger.com to order it. The pass is just a thing that is a different division that is looking to get, obviously, their internal, so they've got this special deal. So the reason that you'd want to get it with the Ledger Market Pass if you already were an owner was you get the stacks, you get a magnet shell, and you'd also get the Art on Stacks Mint Pass NFT. Hopefully I explained it better, but yeah. Will the stacks work with Bluetooth? It definitely will. So with iPhones, with Android, it should work with all of that. And how the Ledger Nano X with Android but not iOS, will that change with the stacks? The Ledger Nano X works with Android and iOS, but it's only with Bluetooth. If you have been having troubles though, definitely reach out to us, because it is a little bit finicky. I totally don't understand. And if you pre-ordered stacks, you also get the magnetic cover too. If you pre-order with the Ledger Market Pass, in particular. If you pre-order on, and I've probably got to go soon because someone will have booked the room, but if you order on our website, I'll wait for it to load up. So I can show you. If you order on our website in particular, you'll see that it's not with the actual the case. So that's for the Ledger Market Pass holders. Or you can actually get it on Rarible. You can get the redemption NFT on the on Rarible. Will the stacks price change with ETH, or will it remain at 0.22? The Ledger Market Pass specific deal will be 0.22 in particular. This, if you order with the card, it'll be €279. So I just think of them separately. If you're already a Ledger Market Pass holder, just go to market.ledger.com and you can mint it. If you've already minted the black on black, for example, that kind of thing, it's pretty much exact same process, is to be expected. All right. Hopefully I answered all your questions. I got to jump out now, but definitely hit us up if you have any other questions at all on our Discord, on support.ledger.com, on our Twitter. Ledger_support is our Twitter account, and you can go from there. If I haven't fully answered your question, you can go there. You can even mention my name if need be as well. Hopefully you guys have a good week, and peace out. Thanks.